in receipt of some replacement letters from Speaker Madigan.
State Representative Justin Slaughter.
It's been a long morning. Speaker Welch.
A little slip there from the chair of the Judiciary Committee on Friday, early in the morning, saying that he had a replacement letter for somebody on the committee from Speaker Madigan. Speaker Madigan was convicted of 10 crimes of corruption this summer. He's not been speaker since 2021. Interesting to hear that on a Friday morning committee. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Friday, the House was in session, and they conducted some business, but definitely a gavel in, gavel out type of day. They get their per diem, they get their travel. And they're back tomorrow, as is the Senate. And it is going to be a pretty jam-packed day. Here's just a little bit of what the schedule looked like this year for the Illinois legislature. This is just the House schedule, okay? So January, they had some days. February, they had some days. March, big block of days. You had deadline weeks, and then you've got April. We just finished that up. Now we're into May, and you can see that block there of dates where it's going to be pretty busy, right? Tomorrow, the 13th, the House and Senate are going to be in session. They're going to be in session all through Friday. Then the following week, they're off Monday, so they'll be in with third reading deadlines to get Senate bills out of the House, but they do have that last week, even after Memorial Day. They have that last week scheduled for all the way through the 31st. So it's going to be a pretty busy week. That 31st, the May 31st deadline, the reason why that's the deadline is because you need a month for any bill that passes with simple majorities to go into effect immediately for the governor constitutionally to act on it. And then that means the budget, for instance. So they have to pass a budget by May 31st to give the governor that 30-day window to enact the budget so it goes into effect July 1st. They can pass legislation after May 31st, but it would take a super majority to enact that legislation, or at least to get it to the governor's desk so that he could enact it. So that's why that May 31st deadline's there. Constitutionally, just how bills pass and the amount of time that the governor has to act on something, and then you have the amount of time that the legislature can act on any vetoes there may be. That's why we have a fall veto session. So again, just some of the protocol of how the legislature goes. But obviously the budget's a big deal. You've got a large spending plan, the state's largest spending plan expected at $55 billion. And there's concerns that Republicans in the super minority in the House and in the minority in the Senate have about the possibility of tax increases. Thursday, Illinois Republican senators took to the podium at the Statehouse. Story from Kevin Bessler at the Center Square you can find. They're slamming the latest push for higher taxes by Illinois Democrats. Let's just read some of this. GOP lawmakers say a proposal to raise taxes on the wealthiest people and corporations in Illinois will be detrimental to small businesses. Two joint resolutions to raise over $6 billion in new revenues been filed by Illinois Democrats with support from a group called Illinois Revenue Alliance. Members of Illinois include the Chicago Teachers Union, which just scored a new contract from the Chicago Public Schools worth $1.5 billion. Also, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights and the Workers' Center for Racial Justice. Both groups are also part of the Illinois Revenue Alliance. Now, we'll take a look at this briefing here in a moment of what they're calling for. But let's hear from State Senator Jason Plummer, who was part of this news conference where he ultimately laid out what he believes are some of the problems with the ongoing push for tax increases. The governor, if you recall, he said no new tax increase. I got myself in the screen there. I didn't realize that. He said during his budget address, no new taxes. I mean, it wasn't exactly what he said, but he said it's going to be a tough budget year. Urged the legislature to do things in a judicious fashion, to find savings where they could, if they want to increase the spending line on one item, they have to increase, cuts somewhere else, and he urged the legislature to bring those ideas to him. So clearly, there's going to be some rough conversations at the Capitol for people who want to spend more tax dollars. They're going to have to find cuts, or as you've heard the governor say time and again, rather the Chicago mayor say it time and again, he's looking for progressive revenue. Progressive revenue. It's a term that we've heard over and over. But here's State Senator Jason Plummer, a Republican from Edwardsville, talking about the latest tax hike push from Democrats.
It doesn't need more taxes. Everyone that lives in Illinois understands that. It needs a government that respects the private sector and a governor that actually understands how the private sector works. Those small businesses that create the most jobs in Illinois. These aren't billion-dollar corporations with endless resources. These are family-owned shops, startups, farms, and small manufacturers from the Wisconsin border to the Kentucky border.
I'm proud to say that this year's budget proposal is balanced and responsible. It represents some hard sacrifices and moderated spending. We're preserving the progress that we've made over the last 6 years, streamlining certain departments to do more with less, and delivering for our residents without raising their taxes.
People from other countries can come here and get gold-plated free health care, while Illinoisans have to decide, do they want to go to the dentist or they want to go to the eye doctor because they can't make ends meet.
So obviously, just one of the videos you would get if you subscribe to us here with the Center Square and have those pop up in your notifications. So you heard the governor there talk about how they're streamlining things, they're doing more with less. But the proposal that's been floated is from the Illinois Revenue Alliance. Let's take a look at that here with a handout talking about how they're looking for $6 billion in new revenue. And they plot it out here. For the proposed budget, they say that the legislature could pass $830 million by raising corporate income taxes. They could have a tax on digital advertising for $725 million. They could increase $1.2 billion in taxes on corporate tax worldwide combined reporting, $175 million closing a corporate tax loophole. They say $200 million for tax corporate offshore shelter income, $1.5 billion close the carried interest loophole, $840 billion billionaire wealth tax, $500 million for an excise tax on capital gains, and $150 million reforming the estate tax. That one actually had some criticism the week before, with House Republicans highlighting how that would essentially take the $4 million threshold for income taxes and cut it in half to $2 million. So say a family farmer who has $3.9 million, they're still under that $4 million cap. But if the Illinois Revenue Alliance gets their way, that estate tax would kick in after $2 million. But there's another push to increase that cap from $4 to $6 million. Others want to get rid of it altogether. So we'll see how that plays out. But clearly, a lot of ideas here that they say would support a variety of things, like, for instance, the immigrant communities by fully funding immigrant services, school funding, strengthening public transit, protecting healthcare access, and so on. One of the big stories that is likely to pop out during the budget process this month is the transit system and the efforts to try to consolidate the transit systems, while they're looking at a $740 or $760 million fiscal cliff by 2026. So a lot of dollars there. I mean, that's almost $1 billion that are needed for transit in all of this. So stay with us, because we'll be getting the latest as we get closer to the budget and how that's all going to play out. So that's just part of the kind of looming issue, right? The budget. We're going to hear a lot about it, but there's other things going on as well, including in the Illinois House Judiciary Committee, where State Representative Curtis Tarver has a measure that he is looking to get through the House after it passed the Senate. This is Senate Bill 42, and as it's been introduced, it amends the Illinois Vehicle Code. It removes the requirement that cannabis within an area of a motor vehicle must be in an odor-proof container. It provides that if a motor vehicle is driven or occupied by an individual 21 years of age or over, a law enforcement officer may not stop or detain the motor vehicle or its driver, nor inspect or search the motor vehicle, the contents of the motor vehicle, or the operator or passenger of the motor vehicle solely based on the odor of burnt or raw cannabis. Why this is interesting is because obviously it deals with marijuana laws, and the Illinois Supreme Court recently had a split decision. One case was about the smell of burnt cannabis, and the other case was about the smell of raw cannabis during traffic stops. So two separate cases, and the Illinois Supreme Court, reading Illinois law, said that the smell of raw cannabis is grounds for a search, because Illinois law says raw cannabis has to be in a smell-proof container. So if police smell raw cannabis, then Illinois law allows them to search the vehicle to find that raw cannabis and determine if it's in a smell-proof container or not. And that's ultimately what they're looking to change here, because on the other side, for the smell of burnt cannabis, the Illinois Supreme Court said that that is not justification for a search, because that doesn't necessarily indicate somebody was smoking cannabis in the vehicle. It could just be somebody in a garage after somebody lit up a blunt, and they had it on their clothes and get into a vehicle, and then the officer smells it at a traffic stop. So that's where this law is coming from, or this proposal is coming from. It's already passed the Senate, now it's in the House, and they're debating on moving forward with this. But obviously, there's conflicting concerns about opening up the possibility of more drivers under the influence of cannabis. Here is State Representative Patrick Windhorst and Curtis Tarver kind of discussing some of the concerns there are in all of this.
Added to that is the lack of a standard and also roadside testing similar to a breathalyzer. So the issue I have with changing the provisions related to the smell or the odor of raw cannabis is that we're going to make this issue that has been identified as an issue even worse. And my preference would be to resolve those intoxicated motorist issues before we start making changes to the cannabis statute in your direction. So I've actually said a lot, not really perhaps asked a question. I'll just allow you to respond to that if you'd like.
I'll say this. I don't think any of us disagree about a collective desire to reduce fatalities in general, no matter how somebody's intoxicated or otherwise. So I will share that with you. I don't know the nuances of the gaps that you identified, but I'm happy to have that conversation. What I will say is that the underlying thing for a lot of these bills, your community and my community may be different, right? And so some of the concerns of folks in my community is how broad some of these things are, and everybody may not be policed the same, right? That's not an indictment on Tipsworth or Cabello or Sheehan, whatever, right? It's just the reality that it's human, right? And so my goal is ultimately to work towards something that makes sense, not something that ties the hands of law enforcement, right? Not something that also allows something that's wide enough, again, that people say drive a truck through, something that makes sense. I mean, the Supreme Court clearly is, I think, to some extent asking us to do something because they're interpreting, burn versus raw, coming out with two different opinions, and then saying that we probably need to amend the vehicle code. So if your position is, hey, look, why don't we look at things holistically? I'm never going to say no to that, right? Can I say that the bill that comes back that we work on related to cannabis is going to include things related to alcohol? I cannot say that for sure. What I can say is if you have a concern in that regard, I'm happy to talk to you about that and work toward whatever is going to keep people safe. I don't care what they look like at all. I want to keep people safe the same way that you do. How we
So
arrived
he
at
went
may
on
be
from
different,
saying,
but it's a
essentially they're going to
conversation
try to
I think we'll
find agreed language to get law enforcement, at least some of their concerns, taken care of. But there's also just the general concern of warrantless searches of vehicles. And Tarver saying that, different communities, it's just the reality, are policed differently. In some areas, they're not as aggressive. In other areas, they are aggressive. And I'm sure that also, has to do with the crime rates in certain areas, heavy drug activity in certain areas. So how that all plays out before the end of session, just one of the many bills we're watching, right? Also, you've got a series of programs that are looking to be created, or, the safe gun storage law that we've been tracking as well. So a lot of things going on at the State House, and May 31st being that deadline to get things done. So maybe they get done with the budget beforehand and they cut out that last week. Would that be pretty amazing? But anyways, in the House Friday, they were in and they had to take time to highlight a pretty significant appointment in the Catholic Church. Here is State Representative Dubaclay.
That we congratulate Pope Leo XIV on being elected the first American Pope in the 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church. And I have to say, he is a White Sox fan, not a Cubs fan.
So a lot of excitement in Illinois as you've got a first American Pope from Chicago. So, it's Cardinal Robert Prevost becoming Pope Leo XIV after he was elected by his fellow cardinals. This is a pretty big deal, especially since he's from the Midwest. He's from the Chicago area, and in particular, he's from a town that a lot of people have heard about recently because the former mayor was somebody who called herself super mayor, Tiffany Henyard, losing the Dalton Village mayoral race. And State Representative Will Davis says, listen, the fact that the new pope grew up in Dalton hopefully is a good sign.
Well, not only does the Pope have Chicago roots, he actually has South suburban roots. While he was born in the city of Chicago, he was raised in Dalton, Illinois, which is a community in my district. And I understand Dalton has had some challenges over the last few years, so now that we can acknowledge that the Pope was from Dalton, maybe he'll sprinkle some magic dust on the city of Dalton and allow this new mayor that we have in Dalton to come in and turn the town around with the blessing of the Pope.
There's no magic dust. I guess one other way that could have been said was, hopefully prayers for Dalton and sunlight and transparency and such. Regardless, pretty interesting deal there, and something that a lot of people are watching, especially with the first American Pope. So that's just a review of some of the things that happened late last week at the Illinois Statehouse. We're going to have plenty more to talk about all throughout this week, next week, the following week, and then unpacking that budget and watching everything get signed into law. Just how many bills are they going to pass? We'll see. It could be, 500 plus? We'll be watching. Right here with the Center Square, I'm Greg Bishop. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the newsletter in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. Get this podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell right here with YouTube with the Center Square.
All right, members, I am in